John chapter 7. Let me try to get something that will be a challenge to you. You are in a unique period of time, especially those of you that are looking to go into the ministry full time. One of the Lord ordains it that way, but one of the regrets I have is that here in an environment like this, most of my partners and compatriots are saved. Most. All right, hopefully all. We don't get the opportunity on a daily basis to be where the rubber meets the road like you guys are. Every day you're with somebody that's a potential convert, somebody that's a potential church attender. Every day most of you are in that situation, and we have to work to do it. I have to get a couple of guys every once in a while and say, let's go out soul winning, because I didn't get enough in this week or whatever, and we have to make special effort to do that. You don't have to do that. But there's a principle that goes along with that that's in this passage. Like I said, several years ago I mentioned something along this line, but I think it's a great application for you all. So Jesus he finally shows up to the Feast of the Tabernacles. They're after him. They're trying to get him. Take a look in verse 30. Then they sought to take him, but no man laid hands on him. We're in chapter 7, verse 30. Then they sought to take him, but no man laid hands on him because his hour was not yet come. By the way, there's a great message. I've been working on it that shows you how Jesus forced every move that happened in his life. He forced it to happen when it happened, like it was going to happen, and who did it. There were no accidents. Nobody made mistakes. He did everything to manipulate his schedule. And right there it just says they sought to take him, but no man laid hands on him because his hour was not yet come. The Lord wouldn't let him. And many of the people believed on him and said, when Christ cometh, will he do more miracles than these which this man hath done? The Pharisees heard that the people murmured such things concerning him, and the Pharisees and chief priests sent officers to take him. He's gotten these Pharisees so mad because of what's going on that he sent people out to go get them. Well, why not? The issue is in verse 32. The Pharisees heard that the people murmured such things concerning him, and the Pharisees and the chief priests sent officers to take him. Look at verse 43. So there was a division among the people because of him. Like I said, these Pharisees were getting pretty upset because people were declaring who Jesus was. John the Baptist, the apostles, others that had been saved. The word is getting around, and it's growing and accelerating. He took and performed many miracles that they had record of. Just some of them. He healed in 17 different instances. He did healing in 7 different instances. He rebuked demons. In 5 different instances, he fed the hungry. He protected disciples on a couple of events, like when they're out in the sea and the storm was happening. And he even raised 3 dead people. And word's getting around, and the competition's there against these Pharisees, and they don't like it. They don't care for what's going on. And so they're trying to do anything they can to capture Jesus. So let's take a look then and see kind of what develops as a result of this. Look at verse 40. Many of the people, therefore, when they heard this saying, said, of a truth, this is a prophet. So there's a group of them out there that they see Jesus, and they figured he's okay, it's no big deal. But they called him a prophet. Is a prophet the Messiah? No. A prophet is a teacher. In fact, a prophet is a good teacher. And one of the things that's fun in apologetics class is showing how it's not possible for Jesus to just be a great teacher. Right? I mean, if he lied about who he was and knew it, he's the most notorious liar in the history of the world. Is that a good teacher? No. If he thought he was God, but he wasn't, now what is he? Right? And that's not a good teacher either. So what's left? Said he was God, thought he was God, was God. So there's no room for him to just be a teacher, but in this particular passage, it talks about that there were a group of them out there that had no problem with Jesus. He was okay, kind of your run-of-the-mill lost persons oblivious to what's going on spiritual, and they called him then a prophet. In verse 41, others said, this is the Christ. Okay, now we're talking Messiah. So in the first group of people, we have those that really don't know who Jesus is, but they don't really have a big problem with him. In that particular group there, when they call him the Christ or the Messiah, it's an indication that they believe that he was the Messiah. But these are kind of in the background people. They don't want to have much to do with anything controversial. They're not out there with that group that's sharing the gospel with others and talking about Jesus. They're just kind of in the background. They're there. More than likely they're saved, but they're not having anything to do with spreading the gospel. Then we get down to this next group. Others said this is the Christ, but some said, at the end of verse 41, shall Christ come out of Galilee? Now this batch are the scorners. Now you got to notice what the comment here is. Shall Christ come out of Galilee? Go back to John chapter 1. Go back to John chapter 1. This is a story, Philip and Nathanael. John chapter 1, verse 43. The day following, Jesus would go forth into Galilee and findeth Philip and saith unto him, follow me. Philip was really good for getting people under the sound of the gospel. Now Philip was of Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip findeth Nathanael and saith unto him, we have found him of whom Moses and the law and the prophets did write, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And Nathanael said unto him, can there be any good thing come out of Nazareth? He's saying, well, this guy can't be the Messiah, because there's nothing that good comes out of Nazareth. And where did those people, or in this case Nathanael, where did he think Jesus lived or was from? Nazareth. Why? Well, his boyhood time was spent in Nazareth. Where was he born? In Bethlehem, and there are all kinds of prophecies saying who Jesus was as far as Bethlehem is concerned. These guys, back in John chapter 7, had a misunderstanding of where Jesus was from, and they made the comment, can anything good come out of Nazareth? They said, our prophecies don't concern Galilee, but it's down here in Judea is where the Messiah is supposed to come from. So this can't be the Messiah. So their misunderstanding of prophecy was the problem for these folks. And they're very vocal about it. This can't be the Messiah. What was Jesus' nickname? Jesus of Nazareth. And so the common thought was that Jesus was from Galilee, the area of Galilee, which is where Nazareth is. And these skeptics were getting a hold of that and saying there's no way that this individual can be the Messiah. These are the outspoken skeptics. They wanted him dead. We looked at that earlier in a couple of verses. They tried everything they could to discredit him by saying he was from Nazareth. They even ridiculed the men who they sent to capture him. We'll take a look at that a little bit later on here. So you've got three groups that we're talking about in here that were common at that time. The first group, they called Jesus a prophet. These probably were lost people that didn't have a problem with who Jesus was, but they weren't really interested beyond that. Then you had the group that called him the Messiah. These were probably saved folks, but they were in the background a little bit too, wanting nothing to do with necessarily going out on a limb to share the gospel. Then you have this group of outspoken skeptics that wanted him dead. So let's start reading in verse 41 again. Others said, this is the Christ. Some said, shall Christ come out of Galilee? That's our scorners. We're in chapter 7, verse 42. Hath not the scripture said that Christ cometh of the seed of David and out of the town of Bethlehem where David was? So there's a division among the people because of him. And some of them would have taken him, but no man laid hands on him. It wasn't his time. We talked about that already. Then came the officers to the chief priests and Pharisees. Who are these officers? Well, they're back. Look over in verse 32. Pharisees heard the people murmured such things concerning him. The Pharaohs and the chief priests sent what? Officers. So these are sharp guys. These aren't just the enlisted folks that were kind of the grunts that did all the work. These are sharp guys. And so they had sent these officers to go get Jesus and bring him back. What happens? Verse 45. Then came the officers to the chief priests and Pharisees, and they said unto them, why have you not brought him? So these officers come back. They don't have Jesus. And they go back to the Pharisees now, and the Pharisees say, all right, where's he at? We said we gave you a job to do. Go out and catch Jesus and bring him back here. Verse 46, the officers answered, and here's an amazing statement of a bunch of lost guys. Never man spake like this man. I have a feeling that what happened is Jesus was speaking somewhere. These guys heard about it. They go over there to get it, and as they're approaching, they're hearing what he's got to say, and a couple of them are going, wait a minute. You're hearing what he's saying? This is absolutely amazing. And they look at one another and say, I don't know about you, but if this is the Son of God, I'm not having nothing to do with this. Let's go. And they left. So there they are, standing in front of the Pharisees. The officers answered, verse 46, never a man spake like this man. We stood there and listened for a little bit. And they don't say it here, but in the back of your mind, it's, what if this is the Son of God? I mean, they had heard all the rumors, all the healings, and all the miracles that had been performed. They had heard all the divisions that were taking place, that some people claimed that he was God, others didn't. They heard all of that, but a firsthand experience, a firsthand confrontation with Jesus, and it changed them. So they go back to the Pharisees, never man spake like this man. Then answered them the Pharisees, what, are you guys stupid? That's a translation. Are ye also deceived? Are you guys stupid? Are you like the riffraff? Look at verse 48. Have any of the rulers of the Pharisees believed on him? But the people who knoweth not the law are cursed. They're insulting these officers that came back now. And there's an argument called an ad hominem argument, which means if you got nothing truthful to say, you just insult people. Does that kind of sound like the political system today? And so these Pharisees go to these officers and say, then answer them the Pharisees, are ye also deceived? Did he get to you guys too? We thought you were smarter than that. Have any of the rulers of the Pharisees believed on him? Have any of the educated people believed on this guy? No. So what has he done? He's got you demon-possessed or something? Have any of the rulers of the day, the Pharisees, believed on him? But the people who knoweth not the law, the stupid people, the ignorant people, the uninformed people, they're the ones that believe on this Jesus. Are you telling us that you're in that category now? But the people who knoweth not the law are cursed. So here's the scenario that you got built up with this. You've got folks all around the area. It's getting very difficult to be neutral as far as Jesus is concerned. But you have skeptics that are viciously trying to get to Jesus verbally as well as physically. You got the ones that are, yeah, he's a pretty good teacher. That's all I know anything about. And then you got the others say, well, no, he's the Messiah, but I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved. And like I said, you got the skeptics that are operating out there. Now look and see what happened. Look at verse 50. Nicodemus saith unto them, he that came to Jesus by night, being one of them. All right, so what's Nicodemus' relationship with these folks? He's one of them. Nicodemus is a Pharisee. I mean, I think his dad was too, as a matter of fact. But he was a Pharisee. And he was one of them. And I've heard comments, and we won't know to get to heaven. I've heard comments condemning Nicodemus because when did he come to Jesus? At night. People said, well, he was chicken and was afraid to get there. I don't know about that. Nicodemus is the guy that went with Joseph of Arimathea to get and take care of the body and prepare it. Nicodemus is one of the two guys, Joseph of Arimathea, that's quoted a couple of times in this time period when none of the other apostles are. I think it's entirely possible that Nicodemus went to get to Jesus and the crowd was so big he just said, I'll come back tonight. Which to me makes sense given the testimony and the stand that Nicodemus made. Why? Let's take a look ahead. Verse 50, Nicodemus saith unto them, he that came to Jesus by night, being one of them, doth our law judge any man before it hear him and know what he doeth? So here he's saying, excuse me, but I'm one of you guys. And last time I checked, what you're trying to do is illegal. You're not supposed to be doing that. There's got to be evidence, there's got to be trial, there's got to be things going along with this. And they said, you guys can't be doing this. And he's one of them. And what's the reply? They answered and said unto him, art thou also of Galilee? What happened right there? Are you stupid also? Are you one of those people from Nazareth up there? It says, art thou also from Nazareth? Search and look, for out of Galilee riseth no prophet. Now, are they right? Yes? Because where did Jesus really come from? Bethlehem. Okay, so they got that part right. But there they are. Now they're back to that ad hominem argument again. Here's Nicodemus, one of them. He has worked with them probably for years. He's been a part of them for years. They know who he is. They've interacted before. And he's getting up and saying, hold on, we can't be doing this. It's not legal. So what happens? Verse number, we'll start at 52. They answered and said unto him, art thou also of Galilee? Search and look, for out of Galilee arises no prophet. Then what? Every man went to his own house. Well, you're just stupid. And they walked off. Right, isn't that what happened there? Here these guys are. They're all upset. They're ticked off. They're probably foaming at the mouth. They're really mad because these officers didn't bring Jesus back. And now one of them is standing up in the middle arguing with them. And they're going, yeah, okay, well, you're just a gunky, and walks off. So what happened there? And let me remind you, he was one of them. So let's do a little application of this for you. Where you're working, are there not people that are lost? Yeah, and they're not all antagonistic. And by the way, I would say some of them that are giving you the hardest time are probably the closest to the gospel breaking through. We've had a lot of instances here over the years where students have prayed for somebody that said, man, they're giving me the hardest time at work, and within a month or two, can I talk to you for a minute? I've got some problems. I just wondered if you could help. So don't worry if somebody's pushing back at you a little bit. Just give them time. Be patient. But here you guys are. You're out there. You got lost people around you. My guess is you've got several saved people, or at least say they are, but they really don't contribute much as far as sharing the gospel with others or even going to church much, perhaps. But they're probably legitimately saved. But then you're also going to run across some of those skeptics. Some of you are going to have those that you work with that just day in and day out, they're pushing on you and giving you a hard time and watching everything that you do. And here you are just minding your own business and working. And by the way, I've mentioned this, I think I had before. Don't be stupid going to your new job, all right? We want you to be a testimony. We want you to be a good effect, but don't be dumb about it. Don't walk in there with a shirt that says turn or burn, you're going to hell. Hi, welcome to work, weirdo, right? But what can you do? How about a shirt with a Providence logo or Northwest logo? And don't say a thing. What'll happen sooner or later? What's with the Providence thing? Well, they just asked you. And that opens a door that you can share with them. So the point being made here, and really kind of the thrust of the whole message, Nicodemus saith unto them, he that came to Jesus by night, being one of them, doth our law judge any man before it hear him and know what he doeth? And they answered and said unto him, art thou also of Galilee? Search and look, for out of Galilee arises no prophet, you dummy. And every man went his own house. You know, you might be that Nicodemus. Another point to be made here is, like I said, he was one of them, had been with them, was educated. If one of the other apostles would have tried to do that or share the gospel with any of them, what would have happened? They'd have blown them off. But Nicodemus was one of them. Folks, you may be the only individual that is going to be able to get through to that person based on your testimony and what happens at work. Do you really think that I can come over to where your workplace is and, hey, listen up, I want to share the gospel with you? How far do you think that's going to get? Well, it's not. But that's why God put you in a specific place at a specific time, knowing you're going to have some divine appointments out there that nobody else can affect. Who else could have stood up to the Pharisees here except one of them? I mean, he shut them down. How are they going to argue? This is one of their buddies. They know this guy. They couldn't get on him too much. Same thing is true with you where you work. Over time, they're going to get to know you and respect you if your testimony is good. And by the way, we get phone calls from your bosses that say things like, I don't know what you guys got going on over there, but this kid is a worker, and we appreciate it. Send us some more. And we get that a lot. Almost never, although there have been a couple of times, have we gotten the other kind of phone calls. But for the most part, because you have a good testimony. And this is one of the greatest, I think probably, we could do some stats on it, but I think we get more visitors to church that are neighbors or co-workers than any other category. Far more than just knocking doors. Far more than just, and we ought to knock doors. Personally, I think that's kind of just your getting fired up stage. You know, get out there and do it, and it's not easy on anybody, no matter how long you've done it. If anybody tells you soul winning is easy, then I don't know if they're really all that concerned about it or not. It's tough. And we should do it. But the vast majority of people that come to the church are your coworkers or some of these people's family or neighbors. They have a relationship with them. And they can't, nor can they to you, deny who you are and what you stand for, as long as your testimony is good. So this whole passage here is geared toward that. You can make a difference. One person can make a difference. I don't know, sort of, you may have done a little module or something where you shared how few people it takes sometimes to win an election. One of the states last year flipped Democratic by 10,000 votes, which is nothing. And there are a couple of recorded instances in history where it's like 1 or 2 votes, and that flipped the whole thing. And so the idea is everything that we try to do, everything that we try to lead up to is geared and based along that thought. One person can make a difference. Cindy, I did one of my favorite illustrations, but years ago, we were in Iowa City, and she was shopping and went through a Kmart. Was that a Kmart? And that's when they first came out with a swimsuit edition of Sports Illustrated, of which I immediately canceled my subscription. So she's going through the checkout line and saw they had it posted, right? Some of the popular magazine stuff they'll put right by the checkout. So they had it there. So she goes to the checkout line, goes home, and calls like 2 or 3 ladies and says, call Kmart and tell them you don't appreciate those magazines being there when you're taking your little kids through. And frankly, forgot about it. So she goes back there a week or 2 later, and she's checking out, and all of a sudden she goes, wait a minute. And the magazines were gone. And so she said to the lady checking them out, said, what happened to the Sports Illustrated magazine? She said, oh, we got bunches and bunches of phone calls of people complaining, so we moved them back in the regular magazine section. Bunches and bunches? That's bunches and bunches. Her and her 2 buddies called, and because of that, it changed Kmart. And the point I'm trying to make with you folks, one person can make a difference. It may take a little time, but one person can make a difference, just like this Nicodemus. And you have to know he had a good testimony with them, because they really replied very little when he stood up and commented. I mean, this was the whole event. This was the whole desire of these guys for this period of time, was to get Jesus and get him killed. Nicodemus stands up, makes his comment, and they go, well, okay then, and leave. So they respected him. They knew who he was. But it had to be Nicodemus. Your place of work, it has to be you. It has to be you if it's going to happen. And you don't have to be in a hurry about it. I mean, I'm not talking about being chicken or anything, but what I'm saying is you don't have to be in a hurry. You don't have to push any more than you need to, but you can be a great testimony. And I'm not talking lifestyle evangelism here, but what I am saying, use your head. You're going to be with those people 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, who knows for how long. You'll have time. You'll have time. You don't have to insult them. And just bear in mind, they're watching you. They're watching you. So the whole point of this message was just a reminder to you as we're getting jumped off into the school year. You're in a great mission field. And I'll add this. Frankly, if you're not getting it done there, I question you're going to get it done in Madagascar. So use this as your mission field training. And use this as an opportunity to be an impact where you are when it's even just one of you. Some of you that you're the only one at some certain location that maybe even as a Christian, man, you got a wide open field there as long as you're a good testimony. Let's pray. Lord, we're grateful for your goodness.